Hello everyone. In honor of Bike Everywhere Month and our study on wheels, I thought I'd read Quentin Blake's Mrs. Armitage on Wheels to you today. And many of you will recognize that name, Quentin Blake, as the illustrator of many Roald Dahl books. Well, Quentin Blake wrote many books as well, or has written many books as well, and this is one of them. Mrs. Armitage on Wheels. I'll do my best to show you all the great Quentin Blake illustrations. And there's Mrs. Armitage in a wheel. Mrs. Armitage was out on her bicycle. Breakspear the dog ran alongside. You see Breakspear the dog? And can you think of a famous name that rhymes with Breakspear? I think Quentin Blake was being clever with this name. Or Mrs. Armitage was being clever with naming her dog. A hedgehog walked across the road. Tring, tring, went Mrs. Armitage on the bell. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a really loud horn. Mrs. Armitage bought 3 horns. They were all very loud. Beep, beep, honk, honk, pa-here, honk, went Mrs. Armitage on her horns. You can see all 3 she's mounted to her bicycle. Then the chain came off. By the time Mrs. Armitage had got it on again, her hands were black and greasy. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is somewhere to wash your hands. So she got a bucket of water and a towel and a soap rack with a bar of soap, and she hung them all onto the bike. And off she went with beautifully clean hands. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself as she cycled along, if it's to be looked after properly, is a complete toolkit. Walter the cat is making a special guest appearance here. So she got a toolbox with spanners and screwdrivers and hammers and cans of penetrating oil, and she fixed it onto the back of the bicycle. And off she went. And spanners is an English word, or an English more commonly used word in England, meaning wrench. A spanner is a wrench. By now, Mrs. Armitage was beginning to think about food. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is somewhere to carry a light snack. She's getting hungry. So she got a tray for apples and bananas and cheese and tomato sandwiches and a holder for a bottle of lemonade and a flask of cocoa and a special basket for bones and dog biscuits for Breakspear, and she fixed them all to the bike, and off they went. But by now, poor Breakspear was feeling quite tired, running along beside the bicycle. You could tell because his tongue was hanging out and he was panting. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is something for a faithful dog to ride on. So she got some iron brackets and some nuts and bolts and some cushions, and she made a seat for Breakspear, and off they went. Can you see Breakspear with his seat? They had stopped beside the road for some sandwiches and dog biscuits when it began to rain. Great heavens, said Mrs. Armitage, what this bike needs, Breakspear, is something to keep the rain off. We know about rain in Seattle, don't we? So she got 2 umbrellas, one large, one small, and she fixed them up on the bicycle, and off they went. Riding through the rain, Mrs. Armitage began to feel rather downhearted. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a bit of cheerful music. So she got a transistor radio, cassette player, and a lot of cassettes of cheerful music, and a mouth organ so that she could join in, and she fixed them all to the bike, and off she went. Mrs. Armitage was turning the pedals so fast and blowing the mouth organ so hard that soon she was nearly exhausted. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a bit of extra oomph. And so she got some wood and some ropes and some tarpaulin. She rigged up a mast and a sail, and she added a few yards of bunting and an anchor into the bargain. So she's making a sail for her bike. And off they went with the wind behind them, faster and faster and faster until... crash! Crunch! Clang! Clatter! Thud! Paree! What this bike needs, Breakspear, said Mrs. Armitage as she picked herself up off the wreckage, is a taking to the dump. And what I need is... whoopee! What did Mrs. Armitage get? But what these roller skates need, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what these roller skates need is... Mrs. Armitage on Wheels by Quentin Blake. See you next time.